Campers, it's me, Ari Lehman, the first Jason Voorhees. From Friday the 13th, I'm here with AJ, and he's got the juiciest slice ready for you. It's dripping with blood. Jason never dies.
What makes a horror film kill memorable, terrific, even in some way profound or poignant? Let's explore. Thanks for checking this out. If anything about it trips your fancy, please like, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
Without further ado.
Carol, I don't think you know him well enough to marry him. Come on, Matty. You don't even know if he's a real shrink. Matty, it's crazy. Who do you think you are?
Blowback from pointing out hard truths? Can't imagine why she'd be so irritable over having Mr. Perfect's intentions, and worse, credentials, called into question. But it's a surefire way to compromise, even a strong bond.
I'm your friend. If you're my friend, you'll respect my feelings.
In matters of love and romance, feelings flout facts every time.
And you'll stop this paranoid behavior, Matty, because if you don't...
Matty's genuine concern is met with implied ridicule and treated like a trifle.
I have nothing else to say to you. Carol, listen, Matty.
Such ultimatums, especially when not given lightly, can have dire repercussions if not respected.
I mean it. Okay?
Oh, the aggravation and peril of having real concern for a friend, and wanting only the best for them, when they're under the dreamy effects of a speedy and lusty courtship. Matty's gut instinct to not trust the odd man who appeared as if out of nowhere and swept her vulnerable friend off her feet is spot on. But that matters little when a receptive ear can't be found. If Carol knew the truth, it would be too ghastly to believe. Because the sus man who has Matty's radar pinging is an infiltrator of broken homes, supplanting the father role with such relish it's as if it's his fetish. Gene, aka Henry, aka Jerry, and maybe most notably, aka the Stepfather, the guy has enough superficial charm to disarm most, but not all. And when he rubs someone the wrong way, he really rubs them the wrong way. Gene might be his current alias, but an untold number preceded it.
Wait a minute. Who am I here?
Gene, keep it straight. In truth, he's a family annihilator who got caught, committed, and used his skills of manipulation to escape and assume his current identity. But having that barely detectable underlying vibe doesn't help the few who see through his pseudo-intellectual pretensions, because at first he's good at seeming like that guy, who's bright and has it all together. Just looking at him, you'd never suspect he's a cold-blooded killer, but Matty knows there's something off about the man who swept in so smoothly, it feels telegraphed. The thing about this lady, besides being resourceful, she won't give up easily, and does a little digging into Gene.
Harrison High School, Portland, Oregon.
Up to something, she glances around as though she feels watched. Before confirming she had good reason to suspect he's not above board.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
F-bomb like that, it must be a big one. Not one to shy away from confrontation, she arranges a public meeting with her friend's deceptive beau.
Wouldn't you be more comfortable talking in my office?
Tell you the truth, Doc, no.
Away from prying eyes and witnesses? No thank you.
Okay.
With his whole life something of a house of cards, he needs to be really careful no breezes turn into gusts.
What's on your mind?
He really has no choice other than to grant her a discussion, because it's also an opportunity to glean information on how to proceed.
Not too popular, are you?
At least for appearance sake, he needs to be liked, so he really doesn't want to hear this.
What's that supposed to mean?
She has no idea just how much she's going for the throat, no matter how casually he plays it off.
Nobody likes to write to you. You must have burned a lot of bridges in Connecticut.
In the time before internet access, when snail mail was king, mail carriers had an important inside track to everyone on their route.
Have you been checking my mail, Matty?
I mean, you did say you were from Connecticut.
Cons and charlatans have a hard time keeping their lies straight, and Matty has picked up on those little discrepancies that tip off the detail-oriented.
At least that's what you told Carol. Then I saw this. Why'd you lie to her?
Asking a liar to explain their need to deceive seems an invitation for more lies.
Did I?
Keeping his story straight not his long suit, he knows there's no point arguing about contradictions.
I told Carol my last practice was in Connecticut, yes.
What he's proficient at is talking his way around the truth, and making others come around to his way of thinking, at least most of the time.
This is from my high school telling me about my 25th class reunion.
With witnesses around, he has little choice other than to humor her.
It's amazing how they can still find you after all these years, isn't it?
Really, it's nothing, or so he would have her believe, quick to be dismissive in that way that subtly puts down the other person, for even contemplating what's on their mind.
I'm very disappointed in you, Matty. Nobody likes to be spied on.
When in doubt, try to pull a power trip. Use some presumed authority as a linchpin.
I'm going to have to go to the post office and put a stop to this.
Matty didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. She knows what is and isn't breaking the law, so he's not in the position to intimidate, he thinks. Besides, she can call his bluff.
You were quite the basketball player in 1964.
Pulling a single string can unravel even an elaborate tapestry.
According to your class newsletter. And this was in there along with the invite.
This string reveals that Gene has manufactured his entire history.
Harrison High School Cougars, 1964 Regional Division champs.
Co-opting someone else's life and adopting it as his own.
They even got a picture of the team. Funny thing is, I see your name here, but I don't see you.
Someone evidently of a different ethnic background.
Man can change a lot in 25 years.
Not this much, Gene.
The jig is up. He's exposed, and there's no slinking away from the truth.
No.
With Matty unwilling to buckle, the stepfather finds himself at one of those crossroads.
No, not that much.
This is one of those instances where she really has a grip on his short hairs.
I knew you weren't a psychiatrist. The question is now, who the hell are you?
Who is he? Obviously, someone with a past he's fleeing. A guy with secrets. The bad ones that lead to wardrobes full of bones.
I'm just someone who loves Carol.
Let's see what she has to say about this.
Without plausible deniability, she has enough to hang him if he can't swing a reprieve.
Matty, wait, please. I never meant to hurt anybody, least of all Carol.
He has a smooth operator vibe. The sort of man who knows how to speak to women, to say what they need to hear, so he gets what he wants.
She has a right to know, but would you let me tell her?
What are you going to tell her? More lies?
Right on the verge of knowing she can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. Somehow, he's still able to get her to acquiesce to his very compelling argument.
You have the evidence. You can be sure I'll do it. I just think that she should hear it from me.
She knows that she needs to hold his feet to the fire and make sure he doesn't renege on coming clean.
When?
If he's the liar that started the deception, why should she trust that he would actually take it upon himself to rectify the situation?
Today. today.
Clearly, Matty has a lot of trust in people. To trust someone who has already proven so deceptive. The problem is that she wants to protect Carol's feelings, and maybe to avoid the blast zone when the truth detonates everything.
We got till 5.
Since he's an escaped mental patient with a trail of bodies in his wake, this won't do. The contemplative cast of his face betrays that the gears are turning, and anyone aware of his modus operandi knows this spells doom for poor do-gooder Matty. Instead of a confession and a night of tears, the stepfather has concocted another plan. One that ensures Carol will be too worn out to be aware of what he's up to later, because he has a busy night ahead of him, shoring up the collapsing walls of his life.
Where the hell is she?
Keeping her occupied and incommunicado before leaving her far too exhausted to take phone calls. Bored waiting, Matty conked out for a while, losing track of time. Matty seems to wake to that weird feeling you get when you fall asleep at a strange time, and ended up taking an unplanned nap. Remembering Carol and all that drama, she attempts to put in a call to her friend, looking to get to the bottom of what became of her when she should have been around. No sooner than the line is ringing, there's suspicious activity in the other room.
Come on, Carol, pick up the phone. Who's there?
Even in a relatively safe neighborhood, as a lady living alone, she needs to be on high alert. A local kid playing a prank, a junkie looking for something to sell to get a fix, a bungling burglar, or a rapacious defiler. The possibility of any needs to be taken into account. In a world of stabby implements, ice picks, nail files, what have you, a silver letter opener seems a solid choice. Now, I mean, a firearm would probably be better, but it will work in a pinch. Fearless, she doesn't shy away. Although if a real threat exists, not the best idea, this is her home, and she will protect it. She's stealthy and surreptitious, taking no undue chances. Leery enough not to bumble forward, ready to confront whatever she might have to face. But there's no apparent reason for the disturbance. Going with the instinct that something is happening, she doesn't give up so easily and peers around expectantly. Since Gene comes off as rather toothless in regard to seeming like a physical threat, at this point he's probably not on her mind. When you're feeling paranoid, it's always consoling to double-check your security measures. Plucking at her nerves, it's not like all this is priming her for the startle of her life. Nothing I have so much first-hand experience with that it's the story of my life. Your typical neighborhood cat goes with mischief like ketchup with tater tots.
What are you doing here?
and can contribute to interesting little anecdotes when they find themselves places they don't belong.
You almost gave me a heart attack.
Matty will make the mistake of relinquishing the letter opener to release the cat into the night.
I'm sure you're a lovely visitor.
Distractions come in many forms, and when they focus attention elsewhere, they can lead to a nifty misdirection.
And a very popular guest. But you were uninvited.
It's interesting that in the penultimate moment of her life, she would feel amusement as she sends Kitty on their way for a round of nightly gallivanting. Perhaps thinking of her own wild oats and how she sowed them. Like some kind of evil lurking phantom, Jerry emerges from the darkness and seizes her. Using a ligature because his dainty little hands don't have the strength to drain the life out of her, even if this didn't have to look a certain way, and handprints would foil that. Fighting for her very life, she does everything she can to reach the letter opener. Carol's photo looks on as her friend is murdered to maintain the deception she has been fed.
Don't struggle.
What a compassionate guy! He's trying to do her a favor. Spare her a few seconds of fear and agony.
It'll be a lot easier.
The nerve to speak to her that way as he's strangling the life out of her is straight up sinister. The stepfather has all the leverage. There's no means by which she can fight, and it becomes quickly apparent this struggle will be going against her. Calculating, methodical, and patient, he waits out her life, choking her until the light goes out of her eyes. And if she's not yet quite dead, she's definitely completely incapacitated and at his mercy.
Where are they now?
In short order, he finds the evidence that she collected against him. Types up a basic but adequate suicide note without much frill, but enough to establish a believable motive. And wipes away all evidence of him having been there, eliminating fingerprints. With the note written and typed out nicely, it's time to finish up the last few details, since Matty is already hung like last season's wardrobe, ready to go in the closet, or in this case, a casket. Leaving Matty hanging there like a goose on sale at market, he strolls away without a care in the world, his problem solved, permanently. This exit is extraordinary for unconventional reasons, because it acts as a cautionary exhibition in treading too deeply into the business of others, without dropping the pretense of respectfulness, to just tear off the damn Band-Aid, no matter the possible repercussions to a friendship, because you never know how extreme someone is willing to be to protect their interests. Matty might have thought she held all the cards, but as a man subsisting in a shaky house of same, Gene always had a joker up his sleeve that was a real wild card. When someone's a psychopath, they enjoy a far wider array of options. A lesson brash and indignant Matty learned the hard way the instant that ligature tightened around her throat. The ironic part was that she thought with her advocacy she was saving Carol from heartache, preventing her from being manipulated and used by a man who would take advantage of her and be the love 'em and leave 'em type, ultimately hurting her like the ex who split, or worse, an isolating abuser who stuck around. She had no idea he was so much worse than some cad, scoundrel, or scallywag who would mac on a woman, seduce her into his control, and use her for all she's worth. She had no idea he was a prime example of a true predator, looking to disarm and lower guards, not only as a means of ingratiation, but so he could strike when least expected. Even aware he wasn't the good guy he worked so hard to portray himself as, even Matty was totally unprepared for the depths he was willing to go. It's hard to blame Matty for falling prey to such a devious killer, because in day-to-day life, what are the odds the one you're dealing with would sooner kill you than risk your interference? Grifters, con artists, manipulators in general, the majority don't commit murder to meet their ends. They'll lie and cheat and steal, but a murder rap? That they smartly avoid like the plague, because that's one of those bells that can't be unrung, and a good shyster knows to not go that far. In the stepfather's case, he's the Quasimodo of murder, having been a bell ringer far and wide. So what's one more ding-a-ling? Appropriate since Gene, or whatever you want to call him, was a real ding-a-ling. One thing that was perfectly clear, Matty should have never offered him any opportunity to get ahead of the truth. By giving him any time at all, even if it weren't his intention to eliminate her as a witness completely, he could still frame the narrative in his favor and make her look unhinged and crazy. Maybe even convince Carol that Matty manufactured the so-called evidence, an off-balance person poking around where she didn't belong. Getting out in front of such a situation would be paramount. Truth is a sadly flexible thing when viewed through different lenses, and oftentimes, to the detriment of reality, can be bent to most benefit whoever gets there first. This demonstrates that even at the time of this film's release, certain social decorum was breaking down. There used to be a level of respect, protocol to follow in social dealings, when delving into touchy subject matter, but that only worked when both sides operated on the up and up. If one side is willing to do anything, up to and including murder, traditional methods are inadvisable. It's all about establishing that narrative, and if one side has a better in, such as being in a romantic relationship with the person, they're probably going to be believed over a friend who has been labeled gossipy, jealous, and or spiteful. Nowadays, this is just the way it is. You have to assume any opposition is going to be underhanded, and go behind your back to shape the story to fit their outlook and lessen the impact of yours. This is true in divorces, in child custody cases, in jobs, even in friend groups.
God help us!
The level of trust exhibited in the past can't exist today because the majority can't be trusted until they earn that trust. And unfortunately, many just don't. Whereas in the past, it was vice versa, since most shared a similar moral compass when it came to practical and collective matters. No matter what, even if it didn't save her, Matty, having maybe picked up a little more wisdom along the way, saw right through the stepfather. She could tell he was some kind of rogue. Even if she couldn't put her finger on exactly what it was, she could intuit that he was the sort to gamble with the lives of others. There was good reason for her concern, too, since, perhaps sorely in need of a groove-restoring rebound after a painful breakup, Carol was swept off her feet and fell in love too quickly for good sense to be involved.
Hey, as long as they're consenting adults.
Why was it so easy? There's a lot of romantic currency in matching the conception of what a heart most desires. He was able to exploit her desire for personal fulfillment while offering to provide a solid father figure for her son.
Todd.
The perfect guy who appeared at the right time following the shattering of her marriage to help pick up the pieces, and even better, accept her and her son's situation without question. This is something that isn't always the easiest hurdle for single moms. So presenting himself as a man not only okay with her son, but open to a parental role, was leverage he was able to exploit. This brings us to the real crux of all this. that Matty wasn't only showing concern for Carol, she was looking out for Todd. By letting the stepfather in, Carol, under the delusion she was doing a good thing for her son, by providing a supposedly positive father figure, greatly compromised her boy. Eventually, no matter what, as reality intruded and the fantasy dissipated, the stepfather would have grown disillusioned with his new family, and what would have followed? Like all perfectionists, he would have gotten the itch to scrap the project and move on. This would include killing Carol and Todd, so he could make a clean break of it, before assuming a new identity and starting the process anew. Although how anybody could construe murder as a clean break is beyond me. So ideal man he was not, merely a clever chameleon, able to take on the colors of one. The thing about the deceiver, he was really more like the perfect parasite, latching on in a gentle way that at first seemed non-invasive, but ultimately led to taking more and more, until it took everything. A man too exacting in his untempered expectations to be satisfied in a given situation for long. He was always a jack-in-the-box one crank away from springing. If it were Carol alone, that would be one thing. Although, if she were a woman alone, he never would have pursued her, since he was interested in single mothers exclusively. But still, were that not the case, even if it's never good for a woman to be with an abusive and/or emotionally manipulative man, without a child in the mix, she's the only one harmed by her decisions. And as sad as it is, that would be her right. The film definitely makes a point about properly vetting a potential mate when kids are involved. That Carol could be so dismissive of her friend was quite disrespectful. Friendship can be a refuge, an oasis, the safe haven necessary to better overcome a rough patch in life. Nor it can be taken for granted. Matty and Carol had to be very close. I don't have a portrait up of any of my friends. Yet Carol chose to treat her warning with zero respect. Yep, it's a bad and thankless position to be in when you're trying to help your love-struck friend see through the facade of their new lover. Matty had a good heart, and it made her persistent. And to reiterate, she was also looking out for what should have been the most important thing in the world to Carol. No matter how much she wanted to frame it that Matty was simply being paranoid, or crazy or resentful, sometimes friends are genuine, and want to help you, and promote a better, healthier life for you, and those you care about. It doesn't always have to be about those other things. It seemed like Matty had been there for Carol, had shown herself to be a devoted friend, available when she needed a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen. It really makes a statement about how romantic entanglements cause people to jettison reason, even when it comes to someone cared about and who cares in return. And the thing of it was, Matty was entirely right. Gene was suspicious. The mystery surrounding him was negative. And by denying the truth, Carol put her son in the crosshairs of danger. Something no mother wants to do, at least not good mothers.
Carol, what exactly do you know about Gene? That I love him?
The problem was that Carol wanted to believe the fantasy, which is a quagmire a lot of people, not only women, end up stuck in, sometimes up to their necks. In the short term, subject to fast emotional attachment, and in the long term, sunk cost fallacy. Either way, it amounts to the same. Someone justifying the bad behavior of someone else to explain their desire to be with such an undesirable person.
What happened with my dad?
Your dad wasn't incorrigible, Todd. He had to be dealt with accordingly. There were no opposing forces inside the stepfather. He was just a bad guy all around. An aberration even among slashers. The man of multiple identities was a projection of his conception of an ideal man, put up against the very dark backdrop that was the reality of his fractured mental state. A classic gaslighter with a yen for shaming others, he was the sanctimonious type who wouldn't have said something so crass, uncouth, and vulgar as he was tired of Matty's shit, but instead something G-rated, like he was tired of her fertilizer, yet somehow was able to justify the murder of anyone who got in his way, because in his twisted mind,
they had it coming.
Gene had a surefire method for dealing with troublemakers, and unfortunately for Matty, he deemed her a troublemaker. Even though she recognized he was some kind of threat, I don't believe Matty, despite insisting on meeting in public, was exactly physically afraid of him. A little by design and a little because he was just that way, the stepfather seemed like a bit of a boob, and not the good kind. A bit awkward in deportment when in the presence of others. He proved not all marauders look like battle-tested warriors, but then even roving armies need background clerical workers. And he was a clever guy, able to manufacture a situation with the cat to navigate Matty into a vulnerable position, so that even with his physical limitations, he could take her without the kind of fuss that would have created evidence challenging the appearance she took her own life. Did he go through all this purely to mitigate threat to himself? I think not. Because he detested her for failing to fall for his ruse, for being an upstart who challenged the reality he was imposing. He wanted to besmirch and defame Matty and her memory as much as he could. No matter how you feel about self-deletion, by smearing her with the claim she committed the ultimate mortal sin, what Gene did to Matty was extra appalling. If I took my own life, that would be one thing. Report on the truth. But if I were to say, die of autoerotic asphyxiation, I'd rather people know the truth than have them think I purposely ended my life.
What?
I personally have a great deal of compassion, but also pity for someone who takes that path. And I would encourage anybody considering anything like that to seek help, and know that the darkest nights always end with another dawn. And I've waited out plenty myself.
It's reassuring.
But I'm also someone who would prefer to not be pitied, unless it's for something like, did you see that jackass? He was looking at his phone and didn't even hear that truck coming.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
So making Matty look pitiable, undercutting her actual strength by making her appear unable to cope with her problems to the extent she had to cut and run from life, was a really sad, unfair, and grim spin to put on her life.
Matty was afraid. She was afraid of being left alone.
Heroism comes in many forms. Courage shows itself in a variety of ways. And when you tie the two together with conviction, you get somebody who puts others above themselves, sometimes all the way to their own downfall. Yep, there's nothing glamorous about being the soothsayer friend, especially since you never know when messing with the fortune of the wrong person can get you hung from the rafters. No doubt Matty was a go-getter. If you didn't agree with her platform, you wouldn't want her on the Homeowners Association. She would likely get her way. And the questionable lawn decor, I don't personally have a problem with masturbating gnomes, but everybody's sense of humor is calibrated differently. Or distasteful flags. Attempts at creating the most offensive flag ever are pretty funny. Would have to go. But as a friend, she was true blue.
I said he was cute. Now I'm saying he's weird.
Sure, she was the kind of person who could seem like a busybody, too concerned with the dealings of others. But in reality, she was purely looking out for her friend. I personally have a lot of experience with this, and it's a no-win situation. People don't like when glaring chinks in their white knight's armor are pointed out. They want their happy images reinforced. That's a hard balance to strike when you recognize someone is in the midst of making a mistake. This might be a lesson in that not every time a friend rains on your parade, it's motivated by a desire to drown your joy. It could be authentic concern manifesting insight you can't see through the lusty lovey-dovey haze.
Yep, that stands up to scrutiny.
For whatever reason, Matty was able to use her outside perspective to recognize a bamboozler when she saw one, only she couldn't detect the true darkness he concealed. This was all an excellent example of how doing the right thing can come at a steep cost. Matty's persistence should have paid off. Instead, it got her a toe tag. Well, I've about reached the end of the rope, so I won't leave you dangling. Thanks for enduring my ravings. Please share any refutations, opinions, accusations, japes, or other ideas in the comments below. And please join me for whatever I'm up to next time. Bye now!
Bye, creepy man! Keep it creepy!
He's a weird guy.
Goodbye!